Hello pumpkins! Welcome to my channel. My name is Caroline Ironwill and I am a professional tarot consultant. If you are new to my channel, welcome! Please do subscribe, it would mean a lot to me, personally. So I ran a poll of what you wanted to see my Thursday hot take on this week, and all 4 of them were things that I really wanted to talk about because I have so much to say, and at the same point they were all, don't get me started. So next week I will do my hot take on Doreen Virtue, because boy do I have stuff to say about her. This week we are discussing the difference between tarot and oracle cards. If you would like to book a reading for yourself, you can do so at the link below, www.carolineironwill.com. Just click on book a reading. I currently have a sale going on right now for teachers. This is for anyone who contributes to our education system, whether that is the custodial staff who is keeping us safe, cleaning up the germs, the school secretary, the support staff, retired teachers, so you are more than welcome if you work or have worked in education to take part in the 50% off sale. Also, I'm extending this to adult students, so if you are in college or university and you would like a tarot reading at half off, now is the time to do that. So, we're talking today about the difference between tarot cards and oracle cards. Let's start with some definitions. So, we're going to start with what is tarot. Tarot is a system that started in the Renaissance times in France as a game. It is still played today, and there are people who think that us North Americans are weird for reading tarot as a divination system. I think of tarot as being a language, and that is how I teach tarot, that is how I read tarot. Each card does have its own meaning, like a word has a meaning, but that context can change, whether upright or reversed, whether in context with other cards, the placement of the card in the spread. Even though there are only 78 cards, there are infinite combinations and infinite spreads that you can use to read tarot. I rarely do a card of the day, although I might start to do that for some beginner readers, because it gives no context to the reading. There are 3 types of decks that qualify as a tarot deck. One of them is the type of deck that I have in front of me. This is the Waite-Smith deck. Sometimes it is called the Rider-Waite deck, or the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, or even the Rider deck. How it got that name? Rider was the publisher, Arthur Waite was the author, and Pamela Colman Smith was the author. Personally, I call it the Waite-Smith deck because I don't think that the publisher needs to be recognized, but I do think that the artist needs to be recognized. Pamela Colman Smith was a woman of color. She contributed to what we know as tarot today, and she died penniless. So I think that that's a shame, and I think that she should be recognized. So I call it the Waite-Smith. Other types of decks that qualify as a tarot deck are the Tarot de Marseille. Tarot de Marseille has the major arcana of strength and justice transposed. So in the Waite-Smith deck, the card number 8 is the Strength card, and the card number 11 is the Justice card. And in the Tarot de Marseille, the Strength card is number 11, and the Justice card is number 8. And in Tarot de Marseille, on the Minor Arcana, which are the cards that have the suits and the numbers, those have pips, which are like a deck of playing cards. In fact, you can do divination with a deck of playing cards. I can do that just as easily as I can do a tarot deck. So, for instance, this is the 4 of pence. Pence are the same as coins or as diamonds. So instead of having a picture with the meaning, you would have 4 diamonds or 4 coins. The stars were actually drawn on the cards by Pamela Colman Smith. She thought that the coins were a little boring, so she drew a little star, and that's how they became the suit of pentacles, which many tarot readers just refer to as pence. The other type of deck that qualifies as a tarot deck is the Thoth Tarot, which is by Aleister Crowley. I don't own a Thoth deck yet. I will get one eventually. I have 20 to 30 tarot decks. I collect them. They're pretty. But I don't have a Thoth Tarot deck yet. There are some other subtle differences as well, but we're not going to get into those today. I own 1 Tarot de Marseille. I can't show it on YouTube because of censorship. It is my naughty deck. Not all Tarot de Marseille are naughty. This one happens to be. It is the one I use for, it's the Decameron Tarot. I'll leave a link to it below. It's the one I use at bachelorette parties and girls' nights and hens' nights, and it's, it has lots of unclothed adult bodies doing things that consensual adults like to do. And all of the wands are, if I can be delicate and keep up with YouTube censorship, my mod Cheryl calls them the male unit. So yes, there are male units on all of the wands. So yeah, that one I can't show on YouTube. There's another type of deck that doesn't qualify as either a tarot deck or an oracle deck called Lenormand. I own one Lenormand deck. I haven't learned it yet. It's just something I haven't got around to. If you are interested in Lenormand, I will leave a link below to Lisa Boswell's channel. Lisa Boswell was on the show 2 weeks ago. She is a phenomenal reader. She is the top tarot reader in Scotland, and just a fantastic lady who has recently started her own YouTube channel. So do give her some love and show her some support with a subscribe. Me too, if you haven't yet. Catch my drift. Okay. Then we get into oracle cards. I have bias here. I fully admit I am not a fan of oracle cards. If you like oracle cards, that is okay. The tarot police are not going to come and arrest you. You can like what you can like. You are allowed to disagree with me. You can leave comments about how you disagree with me, just don't be a dick about it. That's my only rule. So, an oracle deck. One of the reasons I don't like oracle decks is because I don't like that they're called oracles, and I don't necessarily think that putting some pretty pictures on a bunch of cardstock qualifies as being an oracle. We're going to go to the dictionary here. If you know me, you know that I am an Oxford Dictionary type of girl. I am not a Merriam or a Webster's. There's no Rogette's crap around here. It is the Oxford Dictionary. Go big or go home. And the Oxford English Dictionary describes an oracle as a noun, priest or priestess acting as a medium through whom advice or prophecy was sought from the gods in classical antiquity. So an example of that would be the Oracle of Delphi. Archaea, a response or message given by an oracle, typically one that is ambiguous or obscure. Personally, I think that an oracle would be more about the conduit, i.e. the person, and not the tool, and I see the cards as being a tool. But what do we call them instead? I don't necessarily like calling them a fortune-telling deck, because I think that decks do a lot more than fortune-telling. They can be a communication tool, they can be insightful, they can be healing, they can assist with magic endeavors, so I don't necessarily want to call them a fortune-telling deck. Maybe a divination deck would be better, although you can use the deck for more than divination. Oracle deck is what we go with because that's what other people call them, and I can't change that. The thing I think I like most about tarot is that it is a system, and I don't believe that you can ever completely know all of tarot. I would like to refer to myself as a tarot master because I've been doing it for so long. If one could earn a PhD in tarot, I think that I would have one by now. But your knowledge can always go broader and can always go deeper, and you're always learning more. One of the differences I have between my teacher and I, Andrea Vitimus, who will be on the show tomorrow night, is that he wants to develop a relationship with a deck before using it. He knows a deck's energy. I think that you buy it and it's ink and cardstock, and then as you work with it, it kind of takes on a personality of its own. So he would encourage one to bless your deck. He's a big fan of blessing your technology. He told me to bless my old laptop. I didn't, and it got wine spilled on it. Who knows if that would have happened if I would have blessed it properly. That's one thing that he and I disagree on, because you can put any 78 card deck in front of me that is either Waitsmith or Thoth or Tarot de Marseille, and let's go. I can do it. I can read tarot under any circumstance with any deck, and this is a way that I've trained myself to work with tarot. It's not unusual for me to go to a psychic fair and have a client just plop a deck in front of me, and I'm like, okay, let's go. It's and that's my philosophy on reading tarot, because it is a system, and even though each deck has its own personality as you work with it, so my first deck I still have, and yes, it's just ink and cardstock when I bought it, but it has become a trusted friend over the years. It has developed its own personality. We call that in magic an egregore. Or if you watch Supernatural, you'll know what a tulpa is. is not a dolpa. Sorry. I had to quote Dean there. Anyways, when I am reading any card in the deck, it feels like there's a legacy to it. So I can pull let me find a random card. The Page of Cups. To me, when I pull the Page of Cups, this isn't just one card in one deck. This is a card that is connected to the egregore of the Page of Cups, so that each card has its own legacy, and this is connected to every Page of Cups that's ever been read before. And so there's this relationship that gets developed with all 78 cards. When you have an Oracle deck, this is typically not part of a system. So I own 2 Oracle decks which are used together. I have the Druid Plant deck and the Druid Animal deck, both by Will Worthington. I haven't learned these well as a system. So that's one of the downfalls of learning Oracle versus learning Tarot, because I know Tarot. And as I said, you can always learn more, and you can always go deeper, you can always go broader, but I know Tarot. I know these 78 cards. If I was to learn an Oracle deck, I would have to learn from scratch. There's nothing from my past knowledge that can carry over into my present knowledge. I'm starting as a beginner. And for someone who's been doing this for almost all of their adult life, I don't want to start as a beginner again. I guess maybe that's my drawback with learning Lenormand. But again, like, once I learn Lenormand, every Lenormand deck you put in front of me, I can read. However, every Oracle deck is different. There's a part of me that feels like there's a laziness to the author, that they don't want to take the time to learn Tarot, therefore they're just going to slap together 20 or 30 pretty pictures and call it an Oracle deck. And I think that does a big disservice to the legacy of Tarot, because, hey, I've spent close to 20 years learning this beautiful language of Tarot, and now you're just gonna, make up Pig Latin or whatever and call that an oracle? Is that an oracle? Is that 30, 20 cards that you put together, does that qualify as the definition of an oracle? For me, I don't think so, but that's what it's called. It's called an Oracle deck, and I can't change that, as I said. So that's kind of part of the reason is it's like the other category. And I don't want to learn a new system every time I buy a pretty deck. I've mentioned before on this channel, I went to art school like a million years ago, and I don't really make art the way I used to. I need to start making art again. I have so many ideas for decks, and I appreciate the artwork. I appreciate the workmanship that goes into a deck. However, I think that there's something missing in an Oracle deck to me. You can disagree with me. You can love your Oracle decks, and that is just fine. I have so many decks that I want to make. I sat on the idea of doing a supernatural deck forever, and now it exists because I sat on it for too long and somebody beat me to the punch. So I have so many decks that I want to make, but they're all going to have the essence of each tarot card. And each card has something in common. So if we look at the Strength card, which again is card number 8 in the Waite-Smith and is card number 11 in the Thoth and Tarot de Marseille. The Strength in this has a lion. And the Strength card is really about recognizing your inner strength. And there's this natural strength and this beauty to it. But also, if you notice, the lion is tamed. And so there's often this chain around. There are many interpretations of this card, but there's always a big strong animal that has a chain around its neck and a woman. And there are countless ways that you can interpret this, but the symbolism is always there. Same with the Chariot is always a vehicle. So it can be a car, it can be... I have a friend who's doing an urban tarot and is doing a skateboard. I am working on I am inspired to do a tarot deck that's based on How I Met Your Mother, and part of this will be Marshall's car is going to be the Chariot. The Hermit card always has the lamp. There's always the light. There's a podcast, which I recommend you check out if you're interested in tarot, called The Hermit's Lamp. That is by Andrew McGregor, who is in Toronto, Ontario. He has a shop called The Hermit's Lamp. Great guy. I've actually worked for him as a contract reader before. So yeah, highly recommend that you check out that podcast. So the idea of the hermit is all about kind of enlightenment and inner wisdom. People think hermit's like, oh, being alone. But sometimes that light is inside of you. Sometimes that wisdom is inside of you. But it's the idea of like going up the mountain to get advice from the guru that you may ask one question. There are many ways to interpret that, but it's always important to have that core essence of the card in there. As I mentioned, I have the Druidcraft Plant and Oracle deck. I have the Druidcraft Animal and Plant decks. They are often combined and used as one deck. As I said, I haven't spent time learning them yet. I have this because I think that plants and animals can be oracles, and often are oracles, and originally in our human evolution were oracles. Plants and animals played a part in every culture and the development of every society, and I think in our modern world we've lost track of that. These are our medicines, this is our food, and even if you don't eat animals, there are still messages you can get from seeing animals in the wild and what that means and how you can meditate with that and interpret that. There's so much that we can learn from plants and animals, and I really encourage anyone to go deeper and broader in learning about plants and animals and their meaning. So that's why I like that deck, or those two decks, which I combine into one, but like I said, I haven't worked a lot with them yet. However, you can see that plants and animals have had this relationship with humans throughout history. That is my take on the difference between tarot cards and oracle cards. Again, I understand that I am biased because I freaking love tarot and am not a fan of oracle cards. I think that oracle cards are easier for the artist and author to create. I think they pose more difficulties long-term for the reader to learn. I would rather learn one system and have it have this universal tie to what I know about history and humanity than something that was just made up one day. Now, tarot was just made up one day. I understand that it didn't start out as being what it is today, but it has developed this legacy in our collective unconscious that I am in love with. And each deck, each interpretation becomes its own dialect of the language, becomes its own accent. And even though it's ink and cardstock, the reading, when you develop a relationship with each deck, that you're going to get from the cat tarot is going to be very different than the reading that you're going to get from the zombie tarot. So that is my interpretation of oracle decks, Lenormand decks, and tarot decks. If you're interested in more information about tarot, if you want to learn tarot, there's so much information on this channel coming, so please do subscribe so you don't miss out. You can also get a tarot reading from me personally. You can go to www.carolineironwell.com. If you found value from this reading and want to support this channel, you can buy me a coffee or buy my dog Merlin a treat at the link below. Pumpkins, I hope that you are having a wonderful day. If no one has told you today, I want you to know that I love you, that I care about you, and that I am glad you're here. Bye, pumpkins.